Good morning, friends, and welcome to Live 365, episode 5. Today I'd like to share with you a lot of tips and tricks that I use in the kitchen. So a lot of kitchen hacks to make your life easier and to, empower you to make quick and easy meals. So the first thing is, a lot of people tell me I buy vegetables, I really try, and then by the time I get around to cooking them, they're bad. Usually it's because you let them sit for too long in the bottom crispers of the refrigerator, those bottom drawers that you pull out. Well, of course, because those drawers aren't clear, they're sort of opaque, you can't really see through them, you forget what veggies you have in there. It's not necessary to put all of your veggies in the bottom of the fridge in those crispers. I put my veggies right on the shelves, I lay them out, because if they're out of sight, they're out of mind. But if they're right there in plain sight, I say, oh yeah, I forgot that I had those peppers, let's make stuffed peppers tonight, that sort of thing. So that's really helpful. Or you can buy those bagged frozen veggies. Now, I'm not talking about the little prepackaged little veggies in a butter flavored sauce or other crap like teriyaki marinated broccoli. No, I'm talking about the big bulk, broccoli, cauliflower, peas and carrots, the Italian veggie combo, any of those. Those are great. They're frozen, they don't have any garbage on them, and they're very easy to steam. You can thaw them in the microwave, you can do all sorts of stuff with them, and it's really easy because you don't have to worry about them because they're frozen. And they're cheap. It's great. The next thing, one pot meals. I cook a lot of my meals in just a big skillet on my stove, and it's so easy. You can cook your vegetables first, and then you can sort of push them to the side, put your meat in the middle, brown the meat, you can stir it all together. It's so easy because it's less cleanup. You don't have to worry about cooking because you're only using one pot. It's super easy. Go ahead and look at my website. I have a bunch of recipes that only require one pot. It's totally my go-to. I'm always on that one burner on the stove. It's great. Let's see. In fact, get a wok. Invest in a wok. Now, your wok doesn't have to be humongous like, the ones in Chinatown, but if you just get a nice little wok, you can make awesome stir fries with it. You can make all sorts of one-pot meals with it. It's really, really helpful. You just need to be careful with woks because, the stuff on the bottom is obviously going to be closer in contact with the heat source than, what's up the sides of the bowl. So you want to make sure that you're stirring a lot, or, isolating what you really want to cook most and first on the bottom. So, it's just a different way of cooking because you have less surface area that's actually coming into contact with your heat. Get a slow cooker. I had a little one from when I was in college, which was great for me as one person, but then I inherited my grandmother-in-law's big slow cooker, and it's great. Big old crock pot. You can make meals that you will eat for a week. It's fabulous. And you just throw a bunch of vegetables and maybe some meat if you want, with either some water or some chicken or veggie broth or beef broth or what have you, and you pop that thing on, and then it's freaking amazing in about 4 hours. Usually things in the slow cooker take about 4 hours on high or 5 or 6 hours on low, depending on what you're cooking, but it's so easy. You just throw that crap in there, and because it, can stew for that long, the flavors are immediately brought out. I just made a split pea soup the other day, and all I used was water, peas, veggies, a little bit of meat, ham, it was so easy. It's a no-brainer. If you, are working a long day and you just want a meal at home for you, waiting for you, it's perfect. You prep it in the morning, you put it on low, and by the time you get home, that stuff is done, your house smells amazing, and you have meals for a week. So that's super helpful. The other thing is, a lot of people buy those little bags, little tiny baggies of rice, like the minute rice, but a lot of those rice baggies have a lot of sauces and extra ingredients that you really don't need on it, and you don't need little convenience baggies. You're paying so much more for those convenience baggies than if you would just buy rice or quinoa or whatever you're cooking in bulk. Just buy them in bulk. Sometimes those little markets have the drop down where you can put them in your own bag and decide how much you want, or just buy the big bags of rice. Rice doesn't have an expiration date. It's pretty great. It'll pretty much keep forever as long as you keep it cool and dry. So I do that all the time, and Usually rice will double in size when you cook it. So if you put 1 cup of rice in a pot, it's probably going to come out to be 2 cups of rice by the time it's cooked. So that's a good way to remember, how much you're actually eating. So I put about 1.5 cups of rice in there, for example, when I'm cooking for both me and my husband, and then it generates 3 cups of rice, and then it's a good, nice little serving for both of us. So that's really helpful for me. You can either cook rice on the stove, or if you worry about the rice burning and you really don't want to have to baby it, because you do have to baby it, right? You have to stir it all the time. If you want to sort of have mindless cooking, get a rice cooker. Rice cookers are super cheap. I got mine for like 30 bucks at Target. It's about this big. It's great. You put the rice in, and then you put enough water for a knuckle layer over the rice. That's usually my go-to amount of water. And then you put the lid on and you press the button. Half hour later, rice is perfectly cooked, none is burned, because the pot that it's in is a non-stick. It's great. Usually rice cookers too have a little attachment on top. You put the rice in the bowl, and then you put this little sort of like colander thing on top, and then you put veggies that you want to steam on top, and then the lid. So it's really a way that you can make an entire meal in one. You've got your rice steaming, you've got whatever veggies steaming above that. It's fabulous. Rice cookers are so helpful. Love them. Use them. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, I freeze my bread. I do it when I don't make bread. I make bread a lot, but when I buy bread, I freeze it, because always, always, always the breads that I leave out end up going moldy before I get a chance to eat them all, and it's such a pain. I just freeze my bread, and I have a toaster, and whenever I want to, a slice of bread, then the toaster's right there. You don't have to worry about, oh, well, I have to eat all this bread because it's going to go bad. You actually will save a ton of money, because you won't, and you'll save yourself the carb explosion on, you can really just take out whatever, like exactly the amount of bread that you want. I freeze my bread. I also freeze bananas. I use them a lot in my shakes, but if you're really craving a sweet treat, all you have to do is blend up some bananas with a little bit of vanilla extract, maybe some strawberries, or maybe some cocoa powder, depending on the flavor that you want, and it's basically ice cream. That's it. Especially with me being dairy-free with my baby, it's a great alternative to ice cream if that's something that you really crave. And that was a guilty pleasure for me for a long time. The microwave. The microwave is your friend, all right? The microwave, there's nothing wrong with a microwave. There's something wrong with microwaving a ton of those disgusting TV dinners with all sorts of chemicals in them. That's horrible. And please don't succumb to even like the lean cuisine garbage ones, because the only reason why they can market it as healthy is because it's low calorie, because it's not a lot of food, right? It's this tiny little like shit packet, but it's filled with chemicals. It's not good for you. Just don't do it. You can make your own meals. I eat so much because I eat the right stuff. It's not about eating less, it's about eating better. So don't get those stupid TV microwave packages. What you can do though, what's really helpful is if you have potatoes or sweet potatoes that you need to cook, throw them in the microwave. Takes so much less time than trying to bake them in the oven. And then you're waiting for it to get done, and then you're poking it with a fork. And I just take a sweet potato, I poke it a couple times with a fork, pop it in the microwave for 6 minutes, done. Done! It's such a useful tool for so many things. If you want to thaw some frozen veggies, pop them in the microwave. But just to let you know, the microwave, it sucks out a lot of moisture. It's okay with potatoes and sweet potatoes. It usually retains plenty of moisture. But if you're microwaving frozen veggies, for example, I put a little bit of water in, and that usually helps them retain that sort of like steamed texture and that moisture level. So that's helpful. Also, grocery stores now, I find that more and more of them are selling these little shrink wrap packages of pre-chopped veggies. Don't do it. The veggies are super dehydrated that way because they've been sitting there in that packaging pre-chopped, and they're going to go bad quicker. So just buy your veggies whole and take one day out of the week. Like I take Sundays. Today's Sunday. I take Sundays and I do a lot of meal prep. I chop my own stuff. I know what I have. I know when I chopped it. I know how long I've got. It's a fad, for convenience, but you're buying veggies that are going to go bad sooner and that have less moisture in them because they've already been chopped for you. So, it really doesn't take any extra time to chop veggies. So just something to think about. Keep your butter out in a tray. I use real freaking butter, people. I don't buy margarine. It's terrible for you. It's chemicals. I don't buy those like fancy oil, hydrogenated bleh, flaxseed, blah. I use freaking butter, okay? I keep it in a tray and I keep it out because you don't have to refrigerate your butter. I keep it out. I put a little thing in a pan to, you know, let it sizzle before I throw in my onions and whatever I'm doing with my cooking. It's great. It saves me time. I have this awesome knife that I got for Christmas, and the knife stands up on its end because there's this bulbous bottom, and it's sort of, it balances, you know, sort of like those balancing pens, and it's awesome. I just take that thing and I take a little butter and I put it in a pan, and it's super helpful. You know, just don't use a ton of it, but if you know, a little bit of butter is not going to hurt you. It's a great way to cook. In fact, back in the day, a lot of people used lard to cook and it wasn't a problem. It's just, you know, you just have to watch how much you use it, but just please don't get those chemical butter substitutes. Don't do it. It's not good for you. My go-to veggies when I'm cooking, I use a lot of onions, tomatoes, mushrooms, peppers, and celery, because if you saute those down with a little bit of olive oil, the flavors that are going to seep through those, it's phenomenal. And that way, you know, if you want to add meat to it or whatever, and then you soak it in those juices, you're cooking in a way that has a ton of flavor derived from the vegetables, so you don't have to add a bunch of crap to it, like a bunch of sauces or barbecues or, you know, whatever, in order to make it taste good. And also, don't be afraid to use olive oil. There are a lot of fads about, you know, different oils that you can cook with to be healthy. Coconut oil, woo! But you know what? I don't like coconut oil. I don't like the taste of it. I think it's fucking gross. Sorry. Profanity. I think it's gross. I don't like the taste of it. There's nothing wrong with olive oil. Olive oil is really good for you. It has really good fats in it. Just don't use the whole container of it. Just sprinkle some olive oil on some things. It's a great cooking agent. There's nothing wrong with it. I say that as an Italian cooking mama, but you know what? You can be fit and cook with olive oil as well, all right? Couple more points. Don't be afraid to try new foods. Most foods would be freaking delicious if you just sprinkled some olive oil, salt, pepper, a little bit of lemon juice, and throw it in the oven at 350 for an hour. It's basically 99% of all foods. If you prepared it in that way, they'd probably taste delicious. Any vegetable, plenty of meats. I mean, so it's just something to think about. If you are stumped, if you really are new to cooking, if you're not really sure what to do, put it in a pan, little olive oil, salt, pepper, lemon juice, in the oven at 350 for an hour. Probably less if you're only cooking vegetables, you know. And that's it. That's all there is to it. If you're worried about something in the oven retaining moisture, put some tinfoil over it, and then, or if you want something to crisp up a lot on the outside, remove the tinfoil for about 15 minutes before you take it out. That's it. Easy peasy. I never use sugar when I cook because you can always replace sugar with something else. You know, there are plenty of spices, cinnamon, allspice, and, you know, or a little bit of honey or something. I never cook with sugar. The only thing that I put sugar in is my coffee in the morning, and that's the only sugar that I allow myself. And I feel so much better now that I'm not relying on sugar as my, you know, as a source of flavor. I use my blender not only for my shakes, but I also use it to dice up veggies. I use food processor. It makes life really easy if you really want to chop things fine, but you hate the laborious act of just, you know, cutting things really, really small. Use a food processor or a blender. It's a great, great tool. One last thing, and I'm going to carry this with me. I want to show you what spices I use. So right here, from right to left, I've got black pepper, seasoned salt, and seasoned salt is great because it has paprika, sugar, a little bit of sugar, onion, garlic, turmeric, and spices. I use this very sparingly. You don't want to use a lot of this. Walsh's Market sells this Oh My Garlic line. This is an Asian seasoning. It's got garlic, onion, salt, chives, sesame, ginger, mustard seed, red bell pepper, Chinese 5-spice, crushed red pepper, and cilantro. So that's a really great one if I'm making my stir-fry dishes. Oregano. I just ran out of basil, dry basil. I like to use a lot of fresh basil, but when it's not available, I like to use dry basil. Chili powder, garlic powder, paprika, cinnamon, ginger. Pinch of ginger in a lot of even savory dishes is a great way to add flavor. That is it, my friends. Have a good one.